Hi, and welcome to another session of our lecture Product and Business Planning. This is the second learning unit. We discussed within the previous sections and videos, we discussed the business model canvas coming from Osterwalder, and we said that this is a very comprehensive tool to be used when you set up your startup, when you think about your idea and think about your customer segments and the value proposition, the revenue streams, the key resources you have. That is a very, very useful tool. So look in the first videos to find out more about the business model canvas. Now we talk a little bit about idea generation in general from a global and broad perspective. So there's a nice saying, I love that, from Dennis Garber. And Dennis is saying that the future cannot be predicted, it must be invented. So, and we all, in particular, the Western industrialized countries, they're all competing for innovation. And this is, by the way, the only lever for economic growth for them. As, for example, Germany or France or Italy, it is very difficult for them to compete on another basis because we don't have much raw material, we don't have oil and gas and diamonds, etc., and we don't have many people compared to India, for example, and we are very old people. So we need to come out with new ideas, new startups. We need entrepreneurs inside the organization as well as outside of the organization, but also the entities, the corporations need to move, they need to develop, and therefore they are longing more for what we call those intrapreneurs. I think I was mentioning the term before. An intrapreneur is an entrepreneur inside the organization. And when Garber was writing about that, he said he was already doing that in the 60s, inventing the future. That was very much foreseeing the future. And what challenges do we have in today's world? We talked about that basically already. So what we have is we are living in a world, and that was coined, this term was coined by the US military. I'm always using that. I love this this kind of acronym. We are living in a VUCA world. We are living in a VUCA world, and VUCA is an acronym, and it stands for volatility. So everything is more volatile, less stable. The U stands for uncertainty, and the C stands for complexity, and the A representing ambiguity. So I love that term, this acronym, because it perfectly describes the world we are living in. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Together, they put forward enormous challenges for organizations. Because, first point, product life cycles do shorten. So the product life cycles do shorten. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it took more time to develop an automobile. And if you launch a new product, also a computer, a mobile phone, whatever, it could stay in the market for a longer period amount of time. Now, if you think about a Sony camera, if you think about an Apple iPhone, every year there's a new Apple iPhone out there, at least, right? And a digital camera, I think sometimes it's coming every 6 months. At least when you look at one manufacturer. So the product life cycles shorten. And in the same respect, what happens as well is, as the product life cycles are being crunched, are being shortened, of course the profitability of the corporation is challenged as well, because they cannot keep a product or service so long in the given market than before. What is another challenge is, a very, very big one, is that the construction, the building up of competitive advantages takes more time, is more difficult than ever before. Because of the shortening of the product life cycles, because there are new competitors out there, because we are living in a not only in a VUCA world, but we are also living in a globalized world. And even if you have a great idea, a great product, it is copied in an ever shorter period amount of time. And therefore, competitive advantages, even if you have one, few of them are really long-term sustainable, because most of the advantages you have, for example, if they are due to design, if they are due to a certain kind of function, are being copied. For example, think about Siri, which was the first digital voice assistant on a smartphone, and she was introduced in 2011. And but soon afterwards, what happened was that Bixby was on the market, Cortana was there, etc., etc. And now it's no longer a big thing. So what was once a competitive advantage probably is soon becoming what we call a commodity, because it's exchangeable. So we call that a commodity. If there's not a big advantage anymore when it comes to a product or service, commodity. In addition to that, we have the complexity within and outside the organization that is increasing. Think about, again, about this term VUCA world. And I love that one. Probably it's one of my most favorable quotes of all times. It's coming from Tim Mann, the former president of the strategic business unit printers at Hewlett-Packard Corporation. He said, the biggest single threat to our company today is to stay with the previously successful business model for 1 year too long. And that is very, 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 very much the case. Okay, so and that is also if we talk about those kind of I would say management gurus, we have to mention Peter Drucker. He was an American management thinker, and you can see here is he died in 2005. And he said that we are living in an age of discontinuity. And think about when he was phrasing that, when he was talking about that. He said that long ago, more than 50 years ago, he already started talking about that. In an age of discontinuity, entrepreneurs can find significant opportunities to create or transform organizations, but they can only do that if they get ahead of the societal changes. And in this respect, I always, in my keynotes, in my global keynotes, I quote a sports star, which is that is I know Brady, or it's an NHL player now. For whatever reason, the name doesn't come to my mind. But I think it was great. Yeah, it was Wayne Gretzky, and he was being asked, what is the difference between a good player and a great player? And he said that a great player is not skating to where the puck is. A great player skates to where the puck is going to be. And that's a big difference. A great player is not skating to where the puck is. A great player skates to where the puck is going to be. So, and that is in the same kind of respect as Drucker said here. You have to get ahead of societal changes. And the best way to predict, I love that one as well, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And discontinuities here provide gaps in society, but these can be filled with creativity. So we need creative thinking. We need creative thinking, this conceptual thinking. And one guy, one colleague of mine at Harvard Business University, Harvard Business School, was Clayton Christensen. Clayton Christensen unfortunately died this year. And he was coining the term of disruption. He was writing a very famous book called The Innovator's Dilemma. The Innovator's Dilemma. He was writing this book in the 90s. And disruption describes, you have it on the slide, a process whereby a small company, he calls that company's entrance, And this entrance, these new market entrants, they are challenging so-called incumbents. And incumbents are companies that are already in the market, and usually these are the market leaders or the companies who are successfully operating in a given market. And those incumbents, they focus on improving their products and services for their most demanding customers. However, what they do, or what they fail to do, is they ignore the needs of other segments. They ignore the needs of other segments. So what are entrants doing? Market entrants. They begin to successfully target overlooked segments, segments which have been ignored by the incumbents. And they gain a foothold in the market by delivering a more functional experience at a lower price. And then they move up market. And then they move up market, they professionalize. And when mainstream customers start adopt new entrants market offerings, disruption has occurred. And that is precisely what happened in a lot of industries, and what is still happening in a lot of industries. Finance industry, accommodation industry, travel industry. Think about 10 years ago. People, if they want to book a vacation, they went to travel agency. Probably they're calling to some people and say, I want to go to the United States, and I'm not sure where to go precisely in California. Can you think about a 2 weeks trip with some nice hotels and a rental car or whatever? And today people, I don't know, they're using Airbnb, for example, or they're booking themselves. So this is also some kind of a disruption that occurred in the tourism industry. Other examples include Uber, for example, in the logistics. I was mentioning Airbnb, or so Netflix. And by the way, I don't know whether I talked about that before in the previous video. I forgot, but there's a nice history, because Blockbuster, it was a big video rental chain in the United States. Actually, it was the biggest one in the world, and they had the opportunity to buy Netflix, but they refused to buy Netflix. They thought it was not a good business model. And what happened was, Netflix was a new market entrant, and they offered a different kind of business model for consuming videos, right? But Blockbusters, they as the incumbent, having thousands and thousands of outlets, of video rental outlets, they were ignoring the added functionality that those new market entrants were offering, and in the end, they were disrupted. This is basically the slide that Christensen was using in his famous article, Capturing the Upside While Avoiding the Downside, when he was writing about how these disruptive technologies step into the market. Here you see the access time, here is the performance. And first of all, here, disruptive technologies, entrants nearly always win. And what they're doing is, they are moving up market. First, they're entering the market with a lower price, but then they are offering additional functionality, and soon they're getting more and more customers which have bought before with the incumbents, but then they shift towards the new market entrants, and then disruption has occurred if this happens. I mentioned that before, just a couple of minutes before. You can see here that in a famous article by Schotter and van Petegrim, you see digital transformation 2014. You see that in 1995 there has been disruption to the music industry. Just if you think about the iTunes store has substantially disrupted the music industry. But even the disruptors, even the new market entrants, and Apple being a new market entrant, then in the music industry, they are being disrupted, because Apple has been disrupted by Spotify. Yeah, Apple was an incumbent in the music industry then with the iTunes store, and Apple sold more music than all the record labels put together when they invented the iTunes store. However, they've been disrupted by a small Swedish company called Spotify. And Here I mentioned the example video rental, but you can see here TV, print media, travel, HR. In 16 it was banking, healthcare, automotive, retail, education, telecommunication, and we believe that by the end of 2021, 22, 23, all kinds of business sectors will be disrupted. I don't know whether you read about that, but if you think about banking, 𝗏24 just acquired a couple of weeks ago a license, so they can act as a bank as well, disrupting. So that is what is happening. The current banking industry also is, the incumbents are disrupted. Dresdner Bank, Deutsche Bank, etc., etc. Already disrupted are newspapers, for example, the book industry, music, video, retail, travel. I mentioned travel. Just looking at my own publications, I can show how the disruption is happening. So if you look at the value chain, the traditional one, there is an author such as me, and authors writing books, whether it's textbooks or, I don't know, some kind of a novel or poem book collection, doesn't make any difference. So usually in the past, please can you mute your microphones? In the past, authors have written books, and then they are publishing the book via a publisher, via Penguin, for example, or Springer, or Gabler, whatever. And those kind of publishers then sell the book via a bookstore or via online, of course, right? So via Amazon, via Barnes & Noble, or Thalia, to end customers, to readers. Now, what happens due to disruption is also we have disintermediation. Disintermediation means that you're taking away one element of the value chain, not the author, because we still need authors to write books, but in the future may be, and this is also already doable, that artificial intelligence, that robots write books. Now, but nevertheless, here disintermediation means that you take away one element or two elements of the value chain. Now you still have the author is writing a book, but the book is directly published, and therefore it's called Kindle Direct Publishing. For example, there are also 𝗍𝗵𝗵, for example. There are also other publishers publishing directly. And then the book is published directly via Amazon or via another e-publisher. But it's not only published as an ebook, it's also published as a print-on-demand book. And then it's sold to customers, not only to e-customers, but to all kinds of customers. So that is another example in how far disruption occurs in the book sector, in the publishing sector. What has all that meant for the newspaper industry? Many long-standing newspapers have died, but the industry is still alive, and we still have Die Welt, we have the Frankfurter Allgemeine, we have Washington Post. However, it has changed dramatically, and it will continue to change. Why is that? What are they facing? What is their problem? What is their challenge? They're lacking readers. The physical newspapers, they are lacking subscribers because they are all reading online. So they are shifting their content online. However, people are not paying for that. So therefore, there's a quote coming from Sulzberger, the chairman and the publisher of the New York Times, the most prestigious, most respected newspaper on the planet, probably. And he said, we will stop printing the New York Times sometime in the future, date to be delivered. So that is, I think, a very, very, very interesting quote here from one of the chief executives here of newspaper agency. Currently being disrupted, financial services. I mentioned that 𝗏24, for example, gathering a banking license, telecommunications. Think about WhatsApp. Think about Skype. Government, transportation, think about Airbnb, agriculture, healthcare, think about Amazon, think about Alibaba Health, also offering health insurances, buildings management, also on and so forth. So all business will be disrupted in the near future. We think about, for example, insurance, utilities, legal profession, also education, energy. All business sectors will be subject to disruption in the near future. I mentioned that before. Spotify disrupted the music industry. So the challenge is, when it comes to ideas, that you don't have to be innovative one moment in time, but you have to be innovative continuously in order to stay out of the game. And that is so complicated. Netflix is a good example also for a company being able to really disrupt Hollywood, to disrupt the traditional television industry. Because if I'm asking now the audience, who's still watching linear television, most of you would say, oh no, I'm not doing that. Probably some of you are doing, but only they're using media services from the big channels. But normal linear television is hardly being seen by the young ones. Now, this nice guy here is perfectly representing the evolution that is happening at the digital corporations. In 1998, he just sold books. At least this is what he said. And in 2017, that is not a quote coming from Bezos, but that is just reality. I sell whatever I want. Because Amazon is stepping into more and more businesses. It's so diverse when it comes to its portfolio. And strategically, it's very, very interesting, because Amazon is the biggest cloud computer service provider on the planet. Even Google and companies such as Microsoft, they are buying cloud space with Amazon. You can see here that these are 2018 numbers coming from a colleague of mine here, from Scott Galloway, professor at the NYU Stern. And that is estimation for 2018. I don't have more recent numbers, but just to give you a sense of understanding here, these are traditional media companies here, being very, very strong in the paid television segment, HBO, for example, CBS, ABC. But you see that already Amazon Studios surpassed the biggest one, CBS, in 2018 already when it comes to spendings on media and content. You can see here, Transparent was the first one to win an Oscar, was the first streaming product to win an Oscar Academy Award. And Netflix already in 2018 had about 10 to 13, $14 billion being spent just on content creation. Another big idea strategically was, and what Amazon did well, was to think out of the box and to come out with the Alexa. We believe that this is a game changer in business in general, because there is an estimate that by the end of 2020, which is now, 30% of all search globally will be done only via voice. So it will no longer involve a screen. So you either use Bixby, Siri, Cortana, or whatever, or Amazon Echo. And now you can also see what is important when it comes to ideas. You have to be very, very quick in launching a product. Because here you can see the advantage that Amazon has over Google. Amazon's Echo was launched 2 years prior to Google Home. Google followed 2 years later. And you can see that these are 2017 numbers, but the percentage still stays the same. Roughly 70% market share in the US is owned by Amazon, and only 24% are owned by Google. So substantially less. Why? Not because its product is worse or it's inferior, but because they're just later. Of course, they're just falling behind. And what is very interesting, I took this example also from Scott Galloway. If you ask Alexa to buy batteries, and it really works. So Amazon she's responding, Amazon's choice for batteries is Amazon Basics batteries, right? And she's offering a price for $549, of course, depending on the device you use, depending on the day. And she's asking, do you want to buy this item? If you say no, then there might be an answer like, okay, that's all what I can find for batteries right now. That is a bit confusing, because if you go to the Amazon website, you can see that there are all sorts of batteries being offered. So also coming from other brands, by Energizer, for example. Now, what is remarkable strategically, if you look at Amazon, Amazon is disrupting brands, taking leadership positions. Here, you see Amazon's own brand categories. They have the fashion, they have basics, they have health and beauty. They also have furniture now. So they have really cupboards and beds and so on and so forth. And what they're doing very well is, you can see it here, their own brands, they're leading the categories. If you look at the Amazon business here in speaker, Amazon's market share in the speaker segment on Amazon is much greater than Bose and Sonos, for example. And also when it comes to batteries, Amazon basic batteries, they have a market share here of 31, being much greater than the former market leader, or the market leader across all retail, being Duracell. But they also offer diapers here. You can see that they're outperforming Huggies. That's just an example. And here you can see another slide I owe to Scott Galloway. And that is a lovely slide, interesting slide, which says that in phase 1, they were only adding 3 labels. So in 2009 to 2013 here. So coming from the outdoor here, from the home and kitchen, and across category 1. Then there was a period of 3 years they haven't anything substantial. And here in phase 3, 2014 to 16, they added 11 labels, and 66 have been added until 2018, just alone. Just to give you an understanding of how disruptive they are, how much they are stepping into more and more categories. That is also something we've never seen before, never seen happening that before. That is what we call price differentiation via voice. If you go to, if you ask Alexa to buy L'Oreal mascara, that is an example also coming from Professor Galloway. Alexa is giving you a price, and that is interesting. She's giving you a price of $4.89, or she was giving when she was being asked. But same time, if you go simultaneously to the website is giving you a higher price. The website is giving you a higher price than Alexa is giving you. And that is interesting, because we could already see that what Amazon is doing here. Amazon strategically is trying to get people used to buy an order via Alexa. They're giving them a better price. They get used to ordering via Alexa, and then of course they are capitalizing on that later. First, they are longing here for penetration. And that is what really market power can do. You can see here percent change in share price after Nike announced that they're being distributed via Amazon as well. And that is just the development from one day to another. So 29th of June in 2017. You see Nike is increasing by 2%. All the retail, all the traditional retail, they're dropping substantially in share price. The same happened after Amazon announced that they bought Whole Foods, a big chain or food chain, supermarkets in the United States. And after they announced that on June 15, one day later, you can see Amazon increased. Amazon increased in market capitalization by $11 billion. By $11 billion, Whole Foods increased by $3 billion, and all the traditional retail, Walmart, for example, they lost. Nearly what Amazon gained, Walmart lost. That's interesting. Just in one day, Walmart lost $11 billion in market capitalization. Interestingly, it doesn't stop there. Bezos says, I sell whatever the heck I want. He's not saying that, but that is literally what they do. Amazon is the leading place to start product discovery online. And they're also challenging Google, because what is happening? What are people looking for? If people go on Google, if people go on, I don't know, on Bing, on Yahoo, what are they looking for? Most people, more than 50% of all global search is product search, and nearly 50%, it even was more, of product search is directly starting on Amazon. And that is interesting. That is interesting because Amazon, via its platform, is disrupting Google when it comes to product search. So more people use Amazon for product search than they use Google Shopping. Consequently, Amazon is one of the world's biggest companies in terms of revenues coming from advertisement. Although they are a retailer, it's not a media company. But what is it? It's not a book selling company, right? You see, okay, the market is dominated by Google, dominated by Google and Facebook, so it's actually doable. But Amazon is more powerful than Disney, for example, is. So they have more revenues here than Disney is coming from advertising. Amazon makes up 4% of all retail, not online, only retail, all retail. If you look at the US e-commerce, so the online, it's nearly 40%. That's nearly 40%, and that recent numbers is coming from 2019. And that is the problem here. This is coming from Mickey Drexler here, the CEO of J.Crew. And he said it's hard to compete with somebody who doesn't want to make any money, because that is the strategy of Amazon. They want to win people over. They want to increase loyalty. They want to have dedicated customers, because their mission is to become the most customer-oriented company on the planet. Now, we talked about that before. That is the archetype of the old business. And that is the new one. We talked about that before. Okay, so we ended here, and next time we're talking a little bit about innovation, a little bit more about innovation. What are new products? How are innovations diffusing into the market? But first of all, I end here. Thanks very much, and see you for another video shortly.